Years ago, I was a student using the GI Bill. I was older. Got a very nice work study as a security guard with the university. Most of the guards were older guys trying to get into the campus police force. Was told I would get an odd assignment because of my military background. The Botany Biology Department, Greenhouses Complex. Meh. Okay. Was told to read the post instructions carefully and obey them. The complex was outside of radio range, before cell phones, and only one phone in the complex would work at night. The gates to the complex were opened by remote. If the gates were open, I was to leave and call the police from a truck stop miles away. If I saw anyone on the grounds as I drove in, I was to leave and call the police from the truck stop. All doors were to be shut and locked. I was to drive a car up to a side door where I could see the alarm panel. If and only if the panel confirmed all doors were shut and locked, I could go in. Otherwise, leave and call the police. If the panel was all green, I was to park the patrol car so it blocked the side entrance. It was recessed. Lock the other car doors, get out, unlock the side door, lock and close the car door I had left, enter and reset the alarm. If I saw anyone at any time, I was to leave immediately and get to the car and call the cops from the truck stop. I thought the instructions were weird, but whatever. The rest of the instructions said I was to call the office every even hour from the one phone, pretty common. Since they did all sorts of experiments, if a greenhouse had a sign on it, I was not to enter it. I was to not leave the building except to flee or at the end of my shift. No one except the police or guards I personally knew were from the group could be let in. I cover this place on a 10-hour shift from 10 p.m. until 8 a.m. Friday through Sunday nights. The place is big and sprawling with dozens of greenhouses connected by doors or almost tunnels in a sort of maze. Only the roof are clear glass. The sides are this odd translucent plastic stuff you can almost see through. Also has a research office/lab building that is fucking freaky as hell. All sorts of machines humming and clicking, and all the east-west corridors have mirrors at the end, so as I walk around I keep catching movement out of the corner of my eye. Luckily I just have to check the labs at the very beginning and end to make sure the rooms are locked and lock them if they are not. Rest of the time I'm supposed to wander around the greenhouses and make sure there are no fires or leaks. In the middle of the greenhouses is a big geodesic dome heated greenhouse. It is amazing. It has trees, grass, flowers, a little waterfall, and a pond water feature. There are a few birds that got inside there, a couple of frogs, and even crickets. By the third week, I'm in the habit of eating my lunch sitting by the little pond. I remember very clearly the third weekend it started snowing. Hard, and I sat in the dome eating a chicken salad sandwich watching the snow as I listened to the crickets. I had no idea why the instructions were so grim or extreme. The next weekend, though, something happened. I finished my shift and got my stuff together, and set the alarm so I had 2 minutes to leave. I left, shut the locked door, unlocked the car, got in, etc., just like the instructions, and started to leave. As I backed up, I saw tracks in the snow. It was still pretty dark and the lights from the exterior weren't the best, but it looked like footprints in the snow. Like someone had walked around the outside of the car trying to get past it to the door. I looked around but didn't see anyone. The tracks looked like they came from the edge of the fence, straight to the car, back and forth 10 or 12 times, then off to circle the greenhouses. The light was bad, but the footprints looked like they were of bare feet. I got the hell out of there. By the time I got to the truck stop, though, I had calmed down and figured I hadn't actually seen anyone, and with the gate closed, etc., it might have just been my supervisor checking to see if I was doing my job right. I didn't want the hassle of calling the cops. But when I got to the office, I told my supervisor and the manager what I had seen and explained why I didn't call. They were real still, asked if I was okay, and told me that if it happened again, I was to call the cops. A couple days later, my supervisor calls me on my day off and asks me to grab a beer with him. Workplace bonding, sure. Meet him that evening, have a few beers. He's obviously here for serious business. I'm worried that I'm being downsized or something. Finally, he starts to tell me the story about Botany, what we called the location. About 12 years ago, the university stopped letting people work in the building after dark. Insurance reasons, they said. The rumor was people kept seeing and hearing odd things at night. After a huge leak, the university put security in the building full-time about 8 years before. Then 6 years before, a guard vanished. Now, guys who work in security quit by not showing up all the time. And sometimes they quit by just leaving work. But they don't leave behind the car that got them there and their stuff in the building, usually. The new guard talked about hearing noises outside, and tapping on the windows and footprints in the snow. Then he quit because he wouldn't go back. Then 2 years later, another guard vanished, left behind the patrol car, his keys, and a wife. The university didn't want to spend the money for 2 guards, and it was so far away that the supervisors couldn't visit all the time. So they came up with the strict rules. The new guards would last a month or 2, then the tapping and noises and stuff would scare them off. Then, 2 years before I started, a guard died. He was found outside one of the emergency exits, seemingly beaten to death. They figure he was new, heard the noises, and went to check it out. Since then, they had rotated guys through a few weeks at a time, but everyone who knew the story thought the botany was a punishment assignment. But for 2 years, no one had seen or heard odd things. So when I started, a combat vet, they figured they'd put me out there. Then I saw footprints. He was so serious I didn't have the heart to ask if he was fucking with me, so I called the other guys from the office. They all knew the story. All swore it was true. Some talked about seeing shadows through the greenhouse walls, or hearing tapping at the windows of the lab offices as they walked past, or finding their stuff moved that they left behind when they patrolled. So I called the work-study office and took a different position. Fast forward 5 years. I've got my degree. Having lunch when, boom, my old supervisor walks in. He's a cop now, with the city, not the university. I say hi, we catch up a little. After about 10 minutes of apologizing for quitting with no notice, he gets real still. Said it was okay. They hired a new guy right away and they only patrolled botany for about 2 more months. Then the university decided not to patrol it anymore. They just installed a bunch of machinery to shut off the water if there was a leak. Said I should have stayed. No, Anon. They installed all that stuff for a reason. We put the new guy out there on botany. The 3rd weekend he didn't come back to the office, so we went out there. The alarms were still on. The car was parked where it was supposed to be. Everything looked like it should. But he wasn't there. All we found was his lunch in the dome, by the pond.